Ta-ta. Hey man, how's it going? Everything cool? Happy? I'm just getting warmed up, guys. Just getting ready. Another 3 minutes to go, so let's just wait for some people to sign up. Hello, Anoop. Hello again. How's Mexico? All right, right. Lucky you. We're getting into the dark zone here, man. There's gonna be zombies coming out. Awesome. How's it going, Anoop? Everything okay? Great, great. Did you get on the mural itself, like with the subscription, etc., just to share the link anonymously, like we talked? Right. I think that I'm not sure what the deal is, but I'm sure that they've got like 30 or 90 days for free. So I don't know because I'm not their endorser. I just use them. So right, right. Yeah. Well, evidently, there's a lot of that happening. You know, we've started a little bit earlier. The kind of I think that our first webinar was 9th of December last year. So we've kind of gathered some experience, and we've been doing this remote kind of thing, for a year and a half, with some of the international clients. So we've got some experience in it. But yeah, I mean now it's crazy. It's just everything like need to get on it, which is great because I think that when we come back, it's going to be a different world. People will know that hey, you can actually do these things remotely, like full time, and it works. To deliver the value. So it's great, awesome, right? Post-apocalyptic shit, man. Oh man, crazy. So they're just building bunkers and making sure that they're man. That's crazy. Well, that's what happens, I guess. That's right, right, right. All right, oh, man. That's like next level stuff, man. Building that's unrecognizable by AI. Man, unreal, unreal. That's crazy. That's crazy. Unreal. Right, right. Man, I didn't know that. That's crazy. That's great. So we are going to kind of to face the Terminator one day then. Man, crazy. Yeah, this is us, the very beginnings of the underground, like fighting the AI off with Mural. Man, we'll need to go back to like sending pigeons out, you know, keep it all protein based. Yeah, I'm sure I do. I need to definitely catch up, just I need to get some work done first, and then, I haven't been on Netflix for quite some time now, I think that I need a huge amount of yeah, I've heard a lot of good stuff about it. I've heard that it's kind of changing. Yeah, the perspective dramatic. Yeah. All right. Man. Right. All right. All right. All right. So it's not like a series that kind of. All right. Man. Just. Yeah, no worries. It's a good chat. It's a great chat. I still see some people coming in on the Zoom. Let me open up my little comment box for the YouTube and the Facebook. And hopefully, can you guys hear me all right? Hi, Salvatore. Great to see you, man. How's it going? I'm good. I'm kind of getting there. It's like it's another one of those sessions. I started at 6 a.m. this morning. I mean, working. So I've woken up at 5. I've got this challenge that I'm doing now. So I've got like 40 post-it notes on the wall. And every day I wake up at 5 and I keep my diet. I put one post-it note as an accomplished day. So my challenge is like 40 days to go through it. And I'm on day 10 today. So it is a struggle. I'm not even halfway through it. And I'm like, oh man, this is difficult. Specifically, starting work at 6, and then this is like I started work 14 hours ago. So this is like, it's a challenge, but it's great. I think in Poland, just by the Baltic Sea. So if I look out the window over here, which is now glued with, so I can control the lighting, but I can actually see the Baltic Sea right outside the window. So it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So it's okay. Okay, guys. So welcome Salvatore, welcome Anup, welcome Chris, welcome Agnieszka, Diana, Adriano, um, Saviet. Is that the right way to pronounce it? I hope. Hello, Andrea. Hello, iPad, which is well, that's a peculiar name, but that's fine. Well, welcome iPad. Welcome Veroni, and welcome Ava. So, guys, without further ado, I wanted to welcome you to this webinar. We're going to be getting into it's called Design Thinking at Night. So it is at night over here, as I've mentioned already. Hello, Andrea. Great to see you. Good. Great. So I'm just kind of covering all the ins and outs of design thinking. I've been kind of part of these kind of projects commercially for quite some time now. I've started off like way back over a decade ago as a UI designer. Then I went into a UX design role. Then I started to become kind of working on the service design capabilities because I was kind of fed up with just controlling one interaction point between a customer and the phone. So I just wanted to make sure that I kind of cover the entire basis for the service. And then I just switched some roles, been part of some of the big undertakings when it comes to kind of digital transformations. And design thinking was always there for me to kind of help me out along the way when it comes to kind of putting some common sense into the way that we run things and how meetings are scheduled and how they're structured and how they actually are being kind of delivered. And the biggest undertaking we've done was like a 4-year-long project. It was 750 people, 100 million of Polish zloty, it was like 25 million euros in a budget at scale. And it was a huge digital transformation of one of the insurance companies. And pretty, magnificent project. And what I found within that, within those 4 years, because it was 40 projects within one transformation running in parallel. And the amount of meetings that it takes and the amount of people that you need to control on those meetings is pretty overwhelming. And I think that you probably realize now as well that, when you're actually doing these things remotely, people kind of have access to you more than they used to because everybody's at home. So why not have a meeting, And worst of all, we're having all of these things kind of remotely now. And it's to me, the world doesn't really change because I always try to structure these meetings, in a kind of a very synthetical way. But because we're doing it remotely, a lot of people kind of need these additional tools and ways to controlling people online, basically, with all of the madness surrounding us. So all the kids shouting, all the background noise, we're stuck at home. So it kind of stuck or not stuck, whatever perspective you want to take on that. But it is different. And what I wanted to show you today, I'll be kind of jumping in and out of the screen share and back to kind of responding to any of the questions you might have. And I just wanted to cover a few things when it comes to structuring meetings remotely and showing you the Mural app itself so you can actually kind of play around with it a little bit. And then I'll cover some of the things related to kind of physical, structural elements of the meeting. So kind of time management, voting sessions, and how to kind of facilitate that on Mural itself when we have a few people online, just to sit down with them. It's not just about the post-it notes, but actually how you structure the exercises, how you design those, etc. So I'll be sharing the screen. I can show you around the Mural first a little bit. So let me just share the screen. I'm just going to go with my little, just bear with me. I just need to, that's 2, that's 3. That's the zoom in. Let's get right into it. And that's me sharing it in this beautiful circle, which is great. Everything works. Okay, and let me share on the Zoom call as well. Can you actually see my screen on the Zoom call? Okay, is that enough of a resolution, or should I just switch to Zoom share? Just let me know by the show of hands, thumbs up, thumbs down. Is that okay? All right, so I'll keep it down. I'll keep it this way. It's a little bit easier for me to manage. But if you do struggle to see any of the elements, the Ecamm Live sometimes struggles with the resolution. Just let me know, and I'll make sure that I share this this way. So when it comes to the mural itself, the app is pretty basic. It's pretty simple, and it basically is structured into three elements. The way to get to your mural is kind of this is your dashboard that I'm showing you now. So we've got the name of the room. We've got some private rooms, and we've got some open rooms. We were in the open room now, which is called Design Thinking at Night, May the 7th, so today. And it's been created by me, obviously. And the main aspect of this whole dashboard is basically multiple murals that we can have access to and kind of play around with or create new ones, right? So I've created one already, so let's just go into that one. You just click on it and you get into the actual mural. And mural is pretty much just a huge sheet of paper that we can glue some stuff onto, draw some shapes, write some words with written text, glue some post-it notes on it, draw some graphs, diagrams, etc. And that's pretty much it's like a flip chart online. So you can actually do that collaboratively with a lot of people. And that's pretty much the gist of this whole thing. It's subdivided into kind of 3 elements. The first one is the top bar. So as you can see it over here, there's a sidebar, and there's kind of this little zoom setting kind of navigation pane that you can kind of see where you are, because these murals tend to be pretty large. I'm going to zoom out. If you use like Command minus or Control minus on the PC, you're able to kind of zoom out. And if you use Command plus or Control plus on the PC, you're able to zoom in. So this is kind of a way to actually do it. You can obviously do it also with these little icons, minus and plus, to zoom in and out. But as you can see, I've zoomed out to the maximum level. And this is our entire mural. Now, if you have ever done a workshop, we usually use these kind of post-it notes, like 75 millimeters by 75, I think. It's like the Rubik's Cube size, I think, something like that. So if I double click anywhere on the mural, I'm going to generate a post-it note of that size. And as you can see, it's pretty small, right? So that's kind of the size of the thing in real kind of figures, right? So that little yellow post-it note, that's pretty much the size of the mural in kind of human form, right? so I can get rid of that one. And going back to the structure of this entire tool, the first one is the top bar. We can change the name. We can change some settings of the mural. We can export it to some PDFs or PNGs. We can share the mural with others, and I will share that mural with you very shortly. We can adjust some settings of that mural, which is basically kind of going into the name, the background color, as well as the size of this thing, which is pretty. If I change it to dark gray, it's going to become dark gray. So it's pretty basic, pretty easy to kind of do that. I usually use like a slightly pale gray, not white, but pale gray, so that when I put a white post-it note on it, I can actually see it. And the mural size we can affect here or choose it here. You've got a kind of a illustration showing you the size of a human being, an average human being probably, kind of in reference to the size of the mural itself. And it's measured either in pixels, feet, or meters, whatever you want. So that can be actually useful if you want to print it out and get to the meters, so that you know what you have to play with. So that's pretty much done, right? The way to work with this whole tool, as I say, there's a top bar. So we have the settings of it all. We've got undo and redo kind of icons. Pretty easy. You can do the Command Z or Command Command Z or Shift Command Z to kind of redo any action that you've done. And then you have elements related to voting sessions, and we will cover that today, as well as the timer, which we'll cover here today as well. Then we have something called the Facilitator. So because I am the owner of this mural, I can facilitate the entire workshop, and I have some superpowers. So I can run the timer. When you get onto Mural, you won't be able to have access to the timer itself. So you'll be able to see me using it. So we're going to have to kind of jump in and out of me sharing the screen and you kind of using the browser yourself. So that's that. And then we have a capability to summon everyone. So from time to time, when I want to describe something in detail, I'm going to summon you guys to my to what I'm looking at, with this summon feature. This is pretty powerful, and whenever people kind of wander off into the distance and kind of work away on their own, you can actually summon them to whatever you're looking at as a facilitator. Then we have some outline instructions. I rarely use this. And then we have some super lock features as well. So I can super lock elements on the interface so that you as members, you won't be able to unlock them. Only I will be able to unlock those. I can manage those facilitator powers as well, add some new people to that facilitation as well. And that's pretty much it, right? So I've got that. Then we've got it. And this is the amount of people that join. These are the sharing capabilities. So I usually use either invite people that are actually using Mural so they can kind of have a subscription, then I can find here. Or the way that I'll do it today, I've got the anonymous link and I'll just share it to you guys. I can copy that link. I'll put it in the chat on YouTube as well as Facebook as well as Zoom, and then we can actually play around a little bit with it. And that's pretty much it, right? You can export it into some shape or form like PDF, PNG. These are the main two elements that I actually export these murals to. And that's pretty much it. When it comes to, I can embed it, but that's really rarely being used by me. So that's that, and that's the export feature. Then we've got some additional elements like the chat, so we can kind of chat around with each other or kind of leave a message for somebody that visited the mural for some reason when we weren't here. So we can kind of leave a message for them, and they'll be able to have access to that message when they return. So that's that. Then we have the comments. And I won't be getting into the comments too much today, but it's something I can actually comment on the mural itself, and it's going to be an additional layer on top of that I can switch on and off. Then we have some activity. So everything that I did, you can see that deleted sticky note that I've put in over here, a few minutes ago. I can recover that obviously, and we will have a list of all of the activities on the mural itself. So that's that. And then the last but not least, these are like outlines, so the instructions for people if we're not here. Then we have some find features, so I can search something on the mural itself. And that's pretty much it as far as the entire top bar is concerned. So top bar is more about kind of managing the entire meeting, facilitating it, the timer capabilities, voting sessions. So this is more for the facilitator to adjust the size of the mural, the background elements, all of those, sharing it and exporting it. So this is more for you as a facilitator to actually work with, right? And this is mainly, as the process would go, to facilitate, to manage, right? So when you guys join, I'll be able to kind of use the facilitator superpowers to do some crazy things like voting sessions and timing the exercises. So that's that. Then we have another panel on the left, and that's to design the mural. The main kind of feature list over here is in order for us to put a design together, and you can put various different elements like the text or the title. Then we have some text boxes. We've got some comments that I mentioned so far already. We can put obviously a sticky note. We can just drag and drop it to our beautiful mural. I'm going to zoom in using the command plus, or with this one. I can see that post-it note, as you can see on this little navigator screen. So I can actually navigate kind of dragging through here if you prefer. So that's sometimes a little bit easier with these massive murals. They tend to get really massive over time. I tend to use this thing more because I know what the structure is and where those bigger elements are. So I either zoom in and out, or I actually move around using this navigation pane. So that's that. All right, so we can basically drag and drop elements from this little side menu over here, and we can obviously type stuff in them, right? So these are pretty much the three types of different post-it notes. We've got square ones, 3x3, then we have 3x5, and we have a circle one. And we can obviously edit the size of those if we need to. I rarely use that. I prefer to kind of zoom everything around them so that whenever I double click, the post-it note is always the same size and I can just work with it pretty quickly. And the great thing about Mural is that, first of all, if I do double click and there's a post-it note being generated, I can immediately go into edit and I can, type some stuff in. This is vastly different from when you're working with, for example, Google Jamboard. When you generate a post-it note, a big pop-up screen, shows itself, and then you start, it's not as easy to do. So that's that. These are the post-it notes. One cool feature of the post-it note also, when we play around with that, is this little feature over here. And every element has a feature like that, like a little pop over with additional items. But if we change the post-it note into any other color, you can edit, the border color, the post-it color, and if we do edit that, Mural will remember that last choice that you made. So you'll be able to, if you now double click and generate additional post-it note, it'll remember that choice. So it will kind of correspond to whatever's around it and remember your last choices. And also, what is pretty neat is that if I do click away from our pink post-it notes, close to the yellow ones, it's going to remember that context. So it's kind of contextual, right? So it's pretty powerful because I don't need to edit. Once I have built a structure around this whole tool, I can then easily kind of generate these post-it notes and play around with it pretty easily, right? So that's that. Then we go into shapes and connectors, so I can generate some shapes like squares, triangles, etc. It's pretty basic, pretty easy. The cool thing about this, I can actually use these connectors to connect these things together. So if I do take that connector onto the mural, I can actually connect it to one of those, to one of those. It kind of snaps in place and changes color from this white circle to this blue circle. And then when I drag and drop elements, it's going to maintain that connection. So that's pretty powerful, pretty cool for your kind of charts and all of those elements related to how to build process maps, for example, etc. So it's pretty useful for that. And that's pretty much it when it comes to shapes and connectors. That's pretty much it. Then we have icons, so you can search a magnitude of different icons, and this is not the whole list. If I just type in checkbox, for example, or check, you'll be able to see that it kind of asks some sort of a database for those. So pretty powerful. Then we go into some frameworks, so you can actually drag and drop some design, agile, business, model canvases onto the mural. So you just drag and drop it, and you can use it, pretty easily. So it's got a lot of these pre-made templates. I rarely use that because I prefer to design my own tools for my meetings, so I know exactly how much time I've got and how I manage those. So I'm going to delete that. To get rid of any element on the mural, you can actually highlight it and then use the backspace on the Mac, or delete on the PC, or you can actually highlight it, right-click, and an additional menu will pop up, and you can actually delete it through here. So that's that. I'm going to get rid of all of those elements. Moving on to the next one, we've got some images that we can import and search for. We've got some files you can import from your computer, Drive, OneDrive, or Dropbox as well. And one last but not least feature is the drawing feature. So I can actually draw some stuff around Mural. It's not the best feature overall. I can have access to like ultra fine lines, a little bit medium, kind of, a little bit like fine, ultra fine, fine, and medium lines. And I can also have access to some highlighters and change their colors, obviously, with some consistent interactions. And that's pretty okay to do. The problem with the drawing feature is that when I'm done drawing, it kind of saves it as one element, and I cannot edit it anymore. So be cautious when you draw stuff on Mural, because you will have to either redraw it if you want to change something, or just delete it overall. So that's that. And that's pretty much it when it comes to all the features, when it comes to what do you have as a toolkit to design the mural, and the facilitation features that you have at the very top of your or at the very top of your bar. Any questions, guys, as far as the kind of the tools themselves are concerned? Everything understandable so far? By the show of hands, thumbs up. Okay, cool. Very nice. Can you see everything okay as far as the resolution is concerned? Yeah? Awesome. Brilliant. Okay, so now moving on, and let's. What I'm going to do now is show you a few things when it comes to kind of the foundation of how I structure my my workshops online, and kind of how I facilitate those. So there's a few phases to all of this. The first one, to me, I'm going to be using Mural to describe all of those things. But the first one is, actually, I'm going to use another tool. I'm going to do a text, a title. And the first one is something that I do try to define very early on, is the outcome of the meeting. So I want to make sure that when I go into the meeting, I have a defined outcome. What am I trying to get out of that meeting with as a result? So that's the first thing that I'm trying to tackle when I start to design these things. And so that's the first thing. And I'm going to put it to the right because that's the end, right? We should start with it as far as the design is concerned, but this is the end result that we get out of the meeting itself. Another thing that's very crucial is the input. So what am I coming to the meeting with? So this is the outcome that I want to achieve, but what do I need as input into that meeting? What kind of information I need to actually get to that outcome? And the third one, actually there's like two additional elements, so let's just break those down. And that's attendees, and the time we have, right? The time frame. So we are going to work with an actual kind of solid example around that. So I'm sure that most of you have ever been in a meeting, right? By the show of hands, have you ever been to a meeting? All right, probably too many of those. Pretty much like everyone. Yeah, Anoop. Awesome. Okay. So when it comes to structuring these things, this is my kind of starting thing. So I go input, what is the outcome, what do I need to achieve that outcome, who do I need to invite, and how much time do I have to get there, right? So let's imagine that the outcome that we're trying to achieve is uh, solving some issues. So let's imagine that we're on a project team, or we're in in an office environment, and somebody came up with there was a problem with the project, and there's a cock up or a fuck up if you want, there's something wrong. And let's imagine that a person highlighting this thing as emailing you saying, dude, we found 3 problems with this endeavor. So the outcome of that specific meeting would be, well, let's resolve those issues, right? So let's set up a meeting, and I'm sure you've been part of many of those. It's like, let's do a brainstorm, let's figure out a way to solve some issues, and let's do a meeting with 25 people and then try to solve that. So the outcome would be solving the problems, right? Or I would say solving 3 problems to be exact, right? And the input would be those specific 3 problems, right? So I'm going to name that obviously differently, but the input is the 3 problems themselves, right? And that's as easy as I keep this. I just want to make sure that I know what the input to that meeting is. Okay, I've got 3 problems to solve as an outcome. So therefore, I need to kind of know about those 3 problems. So we will have additional kind of elements of maybe familiarizing people with those problems before we actually get to the meeting, and that will have an impact on the amount of time we waste to actually talk about those 3 problems, right, on the meeting. So that's one thing we will tackle. So we have 3 problems that are there, and we need to make sure that that's an input, everybody understands what those are, and we want to get to an outcome of solving those 3 problems. Now, how many attendees we need to invite will kind of vastly differ depending on what the problems are, etc. But we don't want to keep these kind of sessions too big when it comes to kind of running them. So I think that it pretty much is equal to our physical way of working. So when you do schedule a Zoom call with people and you want to manage it somehow, I would invite 5 to 7 people max. So let's just imagine that we invite 5 people over to that specific meeting. The key people that have any resemblance of the problems or kind of reference to it, or can actually solve them, or have any information that can relate to them, or those problems have a huge impact on their work. So that's the attendees I would kind of connect to the outcome I'm trying to achieve specifically, but to the input as well. But more specifically, these guys need to be outcome related more, because the input they can learn about during the workshop or before it, right? So you can send them a list of something, get yourself familiarized with that, because we will be tackling that on the workshop itself. So the input is there for us as a designer of this workshop. The attendees are there to deliver the outcome for us when we manage it. And when we manage it, we obviously need a time frame. So I'm going to assume 60 minutes to start with. I'm pretty sure that most of you have been, kind of running their calendar like I have. And a lot of people kind of dump these 60-minute slots into the calendar, like that's the only way, that's the only time frame they could actually work at. I believe that Bill Gates, he structures his meetings into 6-minute meetings. So every hour he has 10 meetings. Each one of those it takes 6 minutes, and therefore, because Bill Gates only has 6 minutes, the outcome has to be really kind of on point. So it has to be manageable within 6 minutes. It needs to, well, there's just me, probably maybe a few guys that can support me within those 6 minutes to tackle something with Bill. So it's probably just Bill and me and some supportive staff with me, or is it just me and Bill? And then the input, I need to make sure that I've got it synthesized, structured properly, and that I can tell Bill about it in 1 minute. So that Bill's like, okay, I understand it, do this, right? And the outcome I'm trying to get is the decision of Bill towards something, right? So that's that. So the input and the attendees and the time frame, the outcome, these are the 4 elements that I look at when I structure the meeting first. And this really dramatically helps me with designing of the workshop, right? Because now I know how many people I need, how much time I have, what is the input of those elements, and what am I trying to achieve. So hypothetically, there are 3 problems, and we would like to get to solving those problems with probably as many solutions or potential solutions as possible. So that's the first thing when it comes to the structure of this thing, when I start to design the tool or putting it together. So that's the first thing. The second one is I need to understand one specific thing about the workshop, and we will be very heavily using that structure when we start to design it and kind of running with it. And that's phases of work. And there's 5 of those, 5 phases of work. And before I get into the phases of work, is the structure understandable, guys, as far as the input, outcome, all of those elements? By the show of fingers, thumbs up, thumbs down? Pretty basic, right? Pretty easy. So the outcome and input is pretty easy to tackle. I'm looking at the, okay, Facebook as well. Cool. If you're watching this on Facebook and YouTube, definitely sign up and not sign up, join up on the Zoom call. There's a link in the description and in the event itself. So we are waiting for you. So phases of work, 5 of them. And I always very deeply enforce those on every meeting that I do. And the first one is the introduction. And you'll see how these differ, but the type of the phase is exactly the same. So it's the introduction, then we have individual work, then we have individual presentation, then we have group vote / maybe discussion a little bit, and summary. So these are the 5 main stages of the workshop that I always keep when I'm facilitating it, when I have these people on, when I'm running the tool. This is relevant to the time management. This is relevant to the way I structure this exercise and how I run the entire thing. And it differs on the basis of who's doing what. So as far as I'm going to change the color of this into maybe like bluish. So the introduction is down. So this is, let's just go with maybe. If you kind of drag and drop elements holding the Option key or the Alt key on the PC, you'll be able to drag and copy at the same time. So the input, these are the kind of the phases. And these are the, I'll just call them people or roles. Oh, that's the word. That's the word. Roles on the meeting. So the introduction is down to you. So if you're facilitating something, you need to introduce people to the exercise, to the stage of the exercise, to the actual workshop, to the outcome, to everything that you need them to do on this specific meeting. So this is the facilitator. Then when it comes to individual work, these are the workshop attendees. So that's everybody sits down and does some individual work first. So you introduce them to something, and they the backbone of this foundation for me is I hate discussions that lead to nowhere. So I want to make sure that people know what they're talking about so that they have some time to synthesize their thoughts first. Before they start talking, I want them to first, this is the exercise, have a think. You know, spend 2 minutes on it, 1 minute on it, 120 seconds, I don't care. Just have a think first individually, list some stuff down, pre-synthesize what you're going to say, and then present whatever you've kind of come up with, right? So that's the attendees themselves. Right, and then we have the group vote, so that's the entire kind of the entire group, and the summary belongs to the facilitator yet again. Right? Is that understandable, guys, as far as how to structure this thing? Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the link to Mural so you can actually play around. And what I would like to do, I'll be summoning you from time to time. So the first kind of 2 or 3 minutes I will give you just to do one exercise that I would like. Before I send you the link, I would like to first introduce you to the exercise. So what I would like to get as an outcome of this exercise is going to take us like 2 minutes. There's one challenge with Mural when you share it anonymously, and that's everybody's going to be given an icon with a funny animal, and it's going to have a certain color, but I won't know who's who. So the outcome of this exercise for me is so that I know exactly that, you know, anonymous, I don't know, whale is Salvatore, for example, right? So all I need for you to do within the next 1 minute or 2 is to go to one of those elements on the left, so kind of designing your own thing, finding your way around the mural wherever you are. I'll be able to find you through the follow feature, and just using the text kind of title, I'll introduce you to that in detail. So I'll take the title and just name yourself what kind of animal you are, given by Mural, obviously, not like physically. It's going to be anonymous mouse, let's say. And that's the text. So you'll use the text feature, right? So you just use the title or the text box. I don't care. Just do that. So if you want to zoom out, move around the mural, find a little place for yourself somewhere, and then double click underneath that so that you can actually put your name in. So I know that anonymous mouse is, for example, Andrea, right? And that's the exercise. If you can differentiate your post-it note using this little feature of the color corresponding with the color of your animal, because you'll be given a color, that'll be even better, but that's not a requirement, okay? Guys, everything understandable as far as this first little exercise is concerned? Awesome. And from now on, we'll just be on the mural itself. So I'll be kind of summoning you just to run you through some of those exercises. So let me just go to the export. Oh no, to share, obviously. Anonymous link. I'm going to copy that link. It's copied. Close the window. I'm going to go to the chat on Zoom. Type this bad boy in. There you go. So now if you click that link, you'll be able to gain access to the mural. You probably won't be able to see my screen share anymore because now you'll be immersed in this beautiful world of the mural app. So I'm seeing like anonymous seahorse and horse and monkey, etc. So the exercise individually starts now. So I'm going to give you a few minutes using the time feature, and I'll give you like 2 minutes to play around, get yourself familiarized with different little elements and the title and your name underneath the title, which kind of describes the animal you are. Describes the animal you are. That kind of, whatever. Anyway, moving on. All right, so Chris is the anonymous seahorse, Andrea is the anonymous mouse, is it? That's mine, so I'll get rid of that one, sorry. All right, greetings from Wrocław, PL. That's awesome. That's great. Hello, Veroni. I'm at the very Baltic Sea, at the very north, It's like Baltic here, I can see the Baltic Sea actually outside of my window, so it's pretty okay. Some of the ships there, me being a romantic, that definitely adds to the picture. All right, so we've got 1 more minute left. So whenever I'm on the Zoom call and I'm kind of facilitating the structure, I want to make sure that that people kind of have the right time to do these things, play around with it, introduce them, do the individual work. Also, Russell, greetings. Good, that's happy to hear. Awesome, I love it. I love the course flying around. This is cool. All right, so we're like 30 seconds in, so just play around a little bit more, and then we'll move. Yeah, Anoop. I think that if you actually scroll around a little bit with your mouse cursor, you'll be able to, I believe, to say, or I'm not really sure, to be honest. Let me just check that. If I actually use the link and get a mural anonymously. All right, let me just see, because that's a good question. Let me just see. That's interesting. I thought that there will be a way to actually, showing yourself, but let me see. Paste, edit mural size, add area. Oh, that's an interesting thing. I'll have a think. I'll have a think about it, how to actually do that. Now, can you follow me? Just click on me. There's this little A at the very bottom. And if you follow me, kind of, click that A, which is, my, the capital letter of my name, I'll be able to see that you're following me and you're the anonymous gorilla. So that's how I would find out at the worst case scenario that that's you. So you're the anonymous gorilla. But, everybody else kind of somehow they found out how to do it. So it's an interesting, if you can pitch in with an answer of how you found out about the animal you're on, that'd be pretty interesting because that's an interesting question. I'll get into that. Okay, guys. So the time has. All right. So. All right. All right. All right. All right. That's cool. Thank you, Chris. You're a legend. All right, that's cool. So let's just move on to the next one. So that's how I would individually kind of structure these simple exercises first. And obviously, everybody kind of had a say. And now would be the time, to everybody kind of, introduce themselves and kind of say a few words. So let's just break it down. Maybe Anoop, can you just? I'm going to time you. So just to show you the mechanics, I'll give you 60 seconds just to say what animal you are and kind of one sentence about you, your hobby or something. So I'm going to start the timer. and that's exactly how it, and because the subsequent step in the process of phases of working is individual presentations. There is how many people here? If I summon you guys to me, there's 8 of us, right? So I need 8 minutes. If I give everybody 1 minute to say a few words, I need 8 minutes to tackle that specific exercise, right? So I need to count that in, but it dramatically speeds up the process of getting to the end outcome because everybody has a say. You know how many people there are. You can manage the time to the minute, and yeah, and you have pre-synthesized discussion, not post-synthesized like post-mortem, where you're like discussing, and it takes 20 minutes and there's no result. There's no written form of anything. So that's why the individual work first, and then individual presentation is so crucial because then once we have done the exercise, we can then do a group vote. Everybody's heard their stories. We can then do a vote and kind of come up with, yeah, with that. So let's maybe just do that. And what I wanted to do without being judgmental, guys, obviously, I'm going to run a voting session. And I'll give each one of you 3 votes. And you need to, it was quite of a mess over here, and we'll tackle that right now in the next phase. But if you can vote on your favorite animal with the 3 votes. And the way that it works, I'll give you 3 votes. I will be managing the time as well, so I'll give you 60 seconds to do that. And the way to do it is you can actually add 3 votes on one post-it note, or you can kind of add 1 to one animal and then 2 votes to the other. So it's all down to you. You can distribute those votes however you want them. And if you want to kind of delete the vote, all you need to do is just shift click and it's going to delete that vote from that specific card. So I'm going to start the voting session. I'm going to give you 3 votes per person. We're going to name this favorite animal. 3 votes, any member, that's cool. And next. And I'm going to run the time, begin voting, off you go. 1 minute. So wherever we see these anonymous horses or anything, anonymous bees, just vote on the card or on the name of the person that's associated with that animal as a vote of your favorite animal, right? So I can see there's an additional feature of Mural that I can actually see whoever has voted already and whoever has any votes left. So I'm going to go maybe with anonymous horse, Tihana, and Natalia. There you go. So I have voted. And I can see that anonymous panda is still, and giraffe, they're still thinking. Anonymous raccoon and shrimp is still also having a few thoughts about what to do. So shrimp is done. An anonymous raccoon, that's probably me, on the anonymous kind of tab. So that's why I haven't voted. So shrimp needs 1 more vote. And who's the shrimp? Let me see that. Who is the shrimp? Who is the shrimp? Anonymous gorilla. I can't see that. Okay, no worries. I'm going to end the voting session, and now you'll be able to see, and session for everyone. That Anup. So that's the gorilla. You've won. So there's a prize. We'll give you a prize at the end of this session. It's going to be an exciting one. So Anup has been voted the top animal in the group. So that's cool. And then we have all the subsequent kind of votes. So like unique voters that voted on Natalia, Andrea, Chris Panda, etc. And Aspire Salvatore received 2 votes, etc. So you can always see the results, and you can always come back to those. So you can close the window as the facilitator, and then you can kind of see and highlight those votes. You're still able to see the results on the cards until I kind of kill them, right? So I can just click this X, and they disappear from all the post-it notes, and we can move on to the next one, right? So that's the voting session, and that's a group exercise. And because everybody had a say, obviously not today, but Anup would have a say, Bartosz, Chris, everybody would have a 1-minute say. Probably that's why Anup won, because he had the say, That's the impact of information. And that's, everybody's on the same page, so we know exactly what we're voting against, right? And then all it takes is just timing, a simple voting session, and we're done. And then as a facilitator, I can summarize the vote saying that, okay, we have picked, the anonymous gorilla as our favorite animal, great, fantastic, everybody goes for a beer, if we could. So that's pretty much when it comes to the phases of working, how I break that down. And that's pretty much the gist of the entire exercise when it comes to understanding the phases of working. And every session that I do on a workshop, back when they were still physical, and also currently, is I always break it down into this structure because it helps me with first managing the time, and also everybody has a say, and I know how much time I've got left, and everybody's on the same page. And I think that every exercise that you do ever, whatever that meeting is, it's always going to follow that specific structure, because it doesn't matter what we're talking about. Are we talking about problems, stakeholders, business goals, I don't know, vision ideas, product ideas, whatever that is, production issues, whatever that is, there's always a list of those. There's never one, problem to solve. There's always a list of problems, list of ideas, and therefore it's good to come with that input as a whole list, list it out, get everybody introduced to that, get them familiarized with it, give them a simple task to work with it. Then they present their way of thinking about that subject matter, and then everybody's like, okay, so let's put it up to a vote. No discussions, no, blah, 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 unless there is a need to actually, ask a few questions, what did you mean by that, etc. That's where that group, just before the group vote, we can open up to a few, maybe 1 minute for a question, and that's it. And then we just do the vote, we summarize it, and we move on to the next one, right? So is that kind of understandable, guys? As far as the, yeah, cool, awesome. So that's the phases of work. That's the structure, how I kind of build that together. And now let's go into time management, how to build those exercises together. We've got like 17 minutes. I'm here as long as we need to, guys, so no worries at all. If you have any questions, just definitely fire away, and we can kind of break it down, and I can respond to those easily. We have all the time in the world-ish. So phases of work, and now time management. So as you probably saw or noticed me doing, I have given you a specific amount of time for each one of those exercises, right? And this is something that I usually actually present on the tool so that people are familiar how much time they have for each one of those. And these are always broken down into these 5 phases. So the way that I do it is any given tool that that I use. So I'm going to go time management. And we've done this, let's say, favorite animal, right? So that's what we did. And I'll show you how I break down the time. So for every session, every part of the exercise, I use this 5-level structure. So I've introduced it to it. I've introduced you as participants to the tool, right? So I said, we're going to be putting a title and an animal of that 10. And Anup had some questions, so we need to allow for that additional time, within that. So, I've given myself 2 minutes, and I've met that time, right? Then you were given, I think, 2 minutes to do the individual work, to put the title on, play around with Mural, kind of put it all together, highlight the animal, etc. And I've given you 2 minutes to do that. And then we were given 1 minute to present to each other. But because there is 9 of us here, that is 1 minute of presentation individually times 9 people, right? So that's 9 minutes overall. And then we had a group vote. I've given you 2 minutes for that. And I've summarized it again in 2 minutes. And therefore, I know that when I come into the meeting using this structure, I'm at a minute level when it comes to the granularity of my preparation. I know exactly how much time I need, how every little sliver of that exercise is broken down, and I manage it perfectly that way. Obviously, I allow myself for a little bit of room. I have a detailed agenda out of that, and then I can actually run it and control whatever happens. So I usually plan so that people leave 5 minutes before the actual workshop ends. Today it's different because I'm open to questions, so we can do as long as we want to. But that's what I'm trying to do. There's a question from Natalia, so I'm just going to break that down. Is there any way so we generate ideas individually and only later you make it visible on the screen? So everyone has own space on the board, and we are not moving each other's post-its and steal ideas, right? Well, there is a specific way to do that. The way that I would, if it is a need for people to work individually and on that basis, there is a risk of stealing each other's ideas or getting too much of the inspiration from the person right next to you. The way that I do it is I create specific individual murals for that. So if we go back to the dashboard, I can just create a new mural, and let's say this one, create a new mural. I'm going to call this, since Natalia asked the question, it's going to be Natalia's mural. That's that. And I give Natalia all the room in the world to do that. And I'm going to, actually using this specific question, I'll show you one additional element that I always do, and it really works pretty neatly. So as you can see, I've adjusted the size of the mural just using instead of going to mural settings and all that, and then sizing it with pixels, whatever you want to imagine, you can basically drag on, kind of put your cursor of the mouse on top of the side right, and the bottom sides of the mural are kind of editable, and then you can actually drag around and and be happy. So drag around and be happy. It sounds like a title of a song. Anyway, so Natalia is mural. So the way that I would do this is I would break down this specific example using the example of a favorite animal. And if we need to do it really individually, so we don't steal each other's thoughts, I would do it this way. So I would go into can you see my screen, guys? Are you looking at the screen share, or are you still kind of so that you know exactly what I'm working on? Okay, cool. So the way that I would do it is I would first generate a post-it note somewhere, just to get the sizing of this whole thing, and then I would put a title. I would probably do a subtitle to this, just to give additional kind of the description of what's to be done if I'm not here, and I thought I can actually follow up on that. And this gives me the size of the post-it note, right? So what I do is I go to the next element, to the shapes and connectors, and I take a square one. It's going to be exactly the same size. So I go maybe here. And what I do is I actually create a little bit, holding down the shift key, I generate a little section that fits that post-it note perfectly. So I kind of increase probably the size of it. It doesn't need to be as thick and as black. So I leave the thick. I will leave the thickness, but I will change it to a little bit of a grayish color. And what I want to do is I usually go highlight both. You can highlight as many elements as you want, and then you have a contextual menu to edit those. So I usually do that. I change the font to something nicer, to marker felt. Usually, I really love this font. It's kind of written by hand, etc. So all I do is I do favorite animal. Then I add a description. Please input the name of your animal, right? And then using the post-it note colored accordingly, right? Accordingly. So that's that. And I probably just change the color slightly, just something a little bit more grayish so it's not as pronounced. So that's one thing that I do, just give additional description of what needs to happen. Additionally, I have this little thing here. And also I give Natalia the time for that. So time, 2 minutes. So that Natalia can always kind of, have that information in front of her. And this I usually do pretty pronounced. So maybe like dark blue or something like that, right? So this is the exercise. I introduce everybody to it. They go to their individual murals. I pre-generate those because I know who's going to be coming to the meeting. And then I structure it to do it this way. So that's the favorite animal. And that's one thing. And also what I ask you to do is and name, right? So I do it this way. I probably do it like that. So this is animal name. I drag and drop, kind of, drag over those to highlight those, and then using the option key, I drag and copy those. And your name. This is obviously a very artificial and strange exercise. I would ask Natalia to input her name here, but this is how I would structure it, nonetheless, for this specific exercise. I'm giving it 2 minutes, and what I always do then, once I have the structure in place, I think that somebody mentioned it, Natalia mentioned it, so that everybody has their own space and they're not moving elements around. So what I do is I highlight everything, I right click on that, and I can lock it up. So I lock it, and so that only facilitators, so me, can unlock it, or anybody that I give the powers of Facilitator to do that. I lock it, so even I cannot do it unless I unlock this thing over here. So I can unlock it whenever I want it. I'm going to lock it in place, only facilitators. And then I, let people go. Obviously, I prepare this pre the workshop. So it's all pre-prepared. People just come in and I just give them the time, give them the exercise, introductions, off you go. And because it's structured so that it fits the post-it note perfectly, I can either input those 2 post-it notes in or allow that fun thing to happen by Natalia herself. So I usually leave the spaces and let them, just have and go crazy with it. Okay, so Natalia, does that kind of answer the question? Yep. lock it, rule it. Yeah, lock it, rules them all. Rules them all. All right, so that's that. Going back to our little, where were we? There we go. So 8 minutes to go for the main session. So that's how I structure these things. And I, again, always have that outcome in mind, always know what the input is going to be or needed to be for those people to tackle all of those exercises using this specific phase of work. So the phases and the roles, and I know that I need to introduce people to it and summarize it and move on to the next one where, again, introduce it, allow for individual work, presentation individually, so pre-synthesized thoughts presented, group vote, small discussion, summary, off we go. And once I'm done with that, as far as the understanding of the phases goes, each one of those exercises has a predefined time frame. So I'm pretty anal about that when it comes to minutes, but when you do count the minutes and use the stopwatch, it really, I've using this specific structure, I would run myself, just me, five different teams around. It was a physical workshop. That was the last kind of most challenging one for the entire day, and we were down to the minute. It was I just had my little cheat sheet and I knew exactly how many minutes I have for everything, broken down into every minute, and it really works when you actually do that. Because then you just walk around the workshop and you're like, okay, guys, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, and everybody's on the same page. That's really crucial. All right. Any questions, guys, as far as the phasing is concerned? All right, I've got some questions in the chat. So, is there a way to sum up the values of other post-its? For example, in time management, total of the final post-it. I'm not sure that I fully understand. Anup, could you kind of Mhm. Yeah. Like a little calculation stuff. Unfortunately, I don't think it's. Let's try it. If we do like an equals 2 times 2, maybe. I haven't surprised previously, no, but I don't think that kind of a feature is kind of Mural is capable of that. But what I usually do is I've got this pre-made cheat sheet actually. Let me just see if I can find it. I can actually show it to you guys. It's going to be agenda. Let me see if I can find it. And if I can show it to you because it's kind of from one of our commercial projects. But I'll just clean it up quickly so that we can actually break this down. All right, I'll get rid of this. I'll change the name quickly. All right, save it on the desktop. There you go. And DTM. There you go. Is there anything else? Any names? Anything embarrassing? Let me just check that. All right. No, this one actually doesn't have anything embarrassing on it, which is good, hopefully. Yeah. So as you can see here, that's a different beast. But this is what I do. So there's a little. I hope that this actually has that little thing. Yeah. So what I have here is kind of the pre-made structure. This is a high-level one. I kind of have all the other ones in the back of my head and on my little notebook. But this allows me to run the entire day. So we've started like at 11, and we finished at 1800 or 05. So it goes down to the minutes. So I know what the starting point is, and that's what I input. So let's imagine that we start at 9 a.m. So I can do 9 a.m. I know that the first stretch of the exercise is going to take me like 20 minutes, and the rest takes care of itself. So it's all then just calculating all the way to the very end. So at 9 o'clock or 9:20 after the first exercise, I know exactly if I'm on time because I want to finish at 6, or if I'm ahead of time. So with every execution of every exercise, I edit this and I say, okay, it actually took me 23 minutes, and then I execute this one. I know that I have 10 minutes to work with, but it actually took me, 18 minutes. And I can already see that at the end of the day, the time frame, the 15:56, whatever is left, is actually, I'm going to zoom in so you guys can actually see it a little bit better. So at the end of the day, I know exactly what kind of, how many minutes I have left or I'm left with, because it propagates all the way through it. So every execution I do, I go, okay, instead of 30 minutes, it took me 40 or 49. So that's how anal it gets, but at least I know that I will finish, if everything else goes to plan, I know exactly that I'll finish at 4:30. And that's where I want to be. And the amount of I don't want to, yeah, I don't want to brag, but the amount of feedback you get positively, if you do run it this way, when people are saying, this is really kind of, we weren't expecting this to be run this way, you're kind of flying around because I know that I have agenda to keep, and it's just, a lot of good feedback you get because it's professional because you respect people's time, I prefer to leave early and let people go, guys, we're done for the day, we've done everything we've planned, and we've got 1 hour to spare rather than be halfway through it, exhausted, tired, and frustrated, and say, okay, we need to meet up again. So when you actually keep it down to the minute and have that managed properly, a little Excel spreadsheet kind of takes its toll, and yeah, you can manage it perfectly then. And yeah, some people call me, the Hitler of time, but I really this is the way that I kind of try to manage these things so that I'm on time. And my main motivation is not to waste either my time or the attendees, right? Time. All right, so we're like 2 minutes to go, guys. I'm kind of done. So if you want me to kind of open up, there's a few questions on the chat. So let me just see. The battery is 65%. All right. Okay, let's moving on. Look at really thanks. That's Natalia. Okay, no worries. Is it possible to link the individual mural back to the primary mural after a set time period as a show of work? Yeah, well, there's it's kind of possible. So the way that I do it is I go to this. Natalia basically does that for me. Um, uh, Natalia's gonna give me a hard time, in the comments later on. It's like, yeah, what do you mean Natalia's gonna take this thing for me? Anyway, so there's some information here. So whatever attendee we have here, they can just highlight that, do a Command C, copy it, do it that way. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to go back. I'm going to unlock everything just to show you the structure. I have everything pre-prepared for Natalia to do that. So I'm going to go to my, the main mural. And I know that there is a specific place for Natalia here, and it's somewhere around here, right? That kind of copies whatever she's been working individually. Obviously, it's locked in place. And if I go back, all that this attendee, for example, Natalia needs to do now is just take the 2 post-it notes, and she knows that she has a dedicated space for that in this specific mural, and all it takes is just a Command V, and it works just as well. So it is a, pretty much a workaround, but it does work. You can copy enormous amount of elements to your mural from in between murals as well, and it's pretty neat when it comes to kind of running it properly that way. Mural is pretty neat when it comes to also including some of the elements of integration. So if I, for example, I hope that it will work. Let me just go back to my fancy agenda. So if I do take, let's say, the first part, and I copy this from Excel, and I paste it into the mural, it keeps the structure, and it just generates it into a list of post-it notes, which is pretty powerful. So if you have any pre-made stuff that you want people to edit on the workshop itself, you can definitely do it this way. And yeah, it's just, yeah. And then you can work around maybe with the colors a little bit, just make it a little bit more, visually pleasing, a little bit easier to do. Also, you can play around with the type of that because you have this little element to switch the type. You can just switch type to maybe, let's do a circle, right? So we'll change that to circles. And already it's kind of more visually pleasing. We can also change that maybe to with border, with no background, and yeah, and off we go. So this is pretty powerful when it comes to kind of integrating other elements with Mural, and that's what I heavily use definitely to kind of work with some prototypes of meetings as well, etc. So that's that. Moving on to the, is that answering the question, Anup? Awesome. What do we have here? Stupid questions. Salvatore, there are no stupid questions. There's just, I'm running the risk of answering it stupidly, to be honest. So let me see. Do you use this structure for all of your meetings? No, I use it for all of my meetings, not just the workshops. Every meeting that you go with me is going to have this pre-made structure, and I probably will come with some sort of a tool pre-made because I know this is the outcome we're trying to achieve. These are the individual people I've invited. They have a specific element to work with, and I just run the timer, and I just manage it that way. And yeah, again, they leave overwhelmed because they're like, yeah, fuck, we've actually achieved something. It's done. It's recorded. It's something we can collaborate on later on. And yeah, it just solves the issue. So definitely, it's not a stupid question. It's something that I can use as a structure for any meeting. And you've been to many meetings, Salvatore, when it just the discussion keeps on going and keeps on going, and it's like, guys, can we just get some fucking points out, and just write something down? And there's usually like one person, usually me, writing the notes down. Then this note just ends up in an email somewhere. Nobody reads it ever, and then it just disappears. And it's like, and you're like, you didn't get that memo? I mean, it was in the meeting notes. Do you remember that? No, I don't remember, man. It's like I've got 500 emails a day. No way. So definitely having this kind of collaboratively. Is that even a word? I'm going to use a different one. When you're working together with people on this, to have that available to you anytime online is a massive thing to have as a workshopee or as a facilitator of meeting, project manager. So definitely something I leverage very heavily, regardless if I'm meeting people or if it's just a workshop as well. So this structure just works. Everybody has a say, and we can actually vote on it pretty easily. So that's that. Moving on to the next one. Can you export board to JPEG or PPTX? Well, you can definitely do that. So let's just export our beautiful mural over here. We can do a PDF, we can do a PNG, or we can zip those files. If we have put some post-it notes and maybe some files on it, it can actually zip it together into separate files. So that's pretty cool. I rarely use it though. But yeah, we can do a PNG, and it's going to kind of generate a link into your email. So I'll just wait for that in the background, and hopefully that will work. Just bear with me. Just move it to the side. I'll open up the Gmail, and I'll show you how it did, because sometimes this export is a little bit challenging. It'll come into the inbox shortly. So it takes probably like a minute or two to actually do that. So you can definitely get the PDF or the PNG. Sometimes it kind of tends to move the post-it notes around a little bit. So if you have a pre-made structure, it struggles sometimes, but it's pretty okay recently. So that's pretty okay. Okay. Try Session Lab for the planning. Works perfect. Thank you very much, Andrea. That's awesome. So Sessions Lab, guys, there's a link to the to Session Lab. I haven't used it, so thank you very much. That's really cool. I'll definitely give it a go. I'm just because I don't know if Zoom is going to kill my my chat memory or the chat list probably when I end the meeting. So thanks very much, Andrea. That's awesome. I'll definitely give it a thorough look through. Thanks very much. Okay, Chris, quality of the video is very poor. So what I can do is actually share the screen so you can actually, thank you for letting me know, Chris. That's awesome. Let me just do, this is the one. Share. Can you see it better now, guys? Hopefully you can. Just do that. All right, cool. Well, the problem with running Ecamm Live and Zoom at the same time and then sharing to screens and doing all of that, the computer is struggling big time. This is like the kick-ass MacBook Pro, whatever, and I'm already on 61% of the battery. So also, if you're running kind of these kind of calls and you're connected to many monitors, I've got like 3 monitors here. This tablet here, I've got 1 monitor to see you guys on the Zoom call, and I've got my laptop. The laptop is struggling. It's charging, obviously, but we've started, it had 97% of the battery. It's at 61. So if I would like to run a session like this for the entire day, I wouldn't be able to run all of these screens. So that's something I'm just discovering. So definitely kind of remember about the hardware limitations as well. So that's that. Moving on to the next question. Let me just open up the chat window. That's what I really dread when it comes to Zoom, because it's really difficult to find the chat. There you go. Where is it? Where have you put it? Where have you put it? Okay, I'm gonna do it the other way. I'm gonna stop the sharing and then I'll start again. All right, so that's Chris. Okay, and again, Natalia, do you do any introduction to the tool to make sure that entities are comfortable and know how to use it? If so, how and when? That's exactly the first phase of working. So let me just share the screen. That's just the one. Share that. And that's exactly what I mentioned when there is this introduction. So this is obviously for kind of individual exercises. So I would also kind of add maybe, you know, an introduction to the actual workshop itself, to the meeting. Hi guys, we've met here to do this and that. Show the outcome and kind of this is what we're trying to achieve. And then additional element when it comes to summary after everything's done. So if I manage it correctly, I should be left with 4 to 5 minutes to first of all do the introduction for 3 minutes and summarize everything within 2 minutes, right? I believe that we finished like 20:58. So it's kind of, you know, when you get into the stage of kind of managing your time, it gets easier, you know, it gets just easier. So definitely so, I would definitely do that. Introduce to the workshop, to the outcome we're trying to achieve. Then tell the people, you know, let me just, maybe I'll show you one of the, let me see if I've got something like that. 2 more rooms. Oh, there you go. That's something I've been putting together for a Skillshare and Udemy course. It's going to be available on our page as well. But yeah, this is, as you can see, part 1 and part 2. So this is like 2-part workshop for 1 hour. And I basically, when I invite people over, I'm like, okay, the entire meeting is going to be subdivided into 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. I time myself. So I'm giving myself 2 minutes to do it. So I know exactly what am I going to be talking about. Part 1, we will need 30 minutes to do it. There's a problem list that we're going to be voting against. Then we're going to generate ideas. We will have 6 minutes for the vote, 24 minutes for the idea generation, and on voting of those. And what I'm trying to get at is getting one key cool idea chosen out of the whole list. And I've got 5 people attending, right? And when I've done the time management on this specific tool, it turned out that 26 plus 24 equals 30 minutes. So I was able to calculate the 30 minutes at the very end, right? Once I've done the kind of the math. And also for part 2, that's 22 minutes. So because, you know, I've given people 3 minutes to actually present, etc., etc. So, but as you can see, the structure is here: introduction, individual work, individual presentation, vote, and summary. So I'm always keeping that structure in place just to manage it as much as I can. And obviously, you know, fuck-ups happen, so you need to be ready for that and give yourself some buffer. But at the end of the day, you know, it's better to have that structure than not have it. Or it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, you know? So that's that. Okay, moving on. And also, let me know if this answers the questions, Natalia and the gang. Just go to everyone. Okay. What else is there? Okay, cool. Really glad to hear. And Veroni is asking one final thing. Could you please show us some very complex board? How do you maintain it? Well, this is pretty complex when it comes to this one, for example, that I'm sharing as far as that little training sesh is doing. But I could actually try and come up with or show you desktop. That's fine. Okay, I'll share that. Okie dokie. And I believe that, okay, that's cool. Let me just go back. I try to keep these not as massive for the workshop. I've got some working kind of murals that are more like a workshop for me when I just, you know, put some notes together, etc. I can show you maybe one of those. Let me see, you know, I do some maybe pricing on it, you know. So I kind of keep it like this, you know, kind of, you know, note-based, you know. It's kind of my way of structuring things together and kind of putting together. This is like a project scope that I'm putting together for one of the companies that we're working for. So that's I use it this way, and I try not to get overwhelmed with, you know, or try not to generate too big of a tool. So if we go to, for example, the 19 Academy, let's go with maybe, I don't know, with this one, for example, the business hypothesis map. I try to keep it as concise. As you can see, the structure, the little elements, kind of the squares. You can definitely see the structure here, what's to be done, and then I just run it, manage it, and I try to keep them concise. So if I need, you know, another meeting or another workshop, I try to keep it on a separate one. So I create another mural. There's another outcome to be achieved, etc. So I kind of try to mitigate that, so that I don't have this massive mural that I need to scroll around, because they tend to lag after a certain level of size, right? So that's what I try to mitigate. All right. Okay, so that's kind of where we stand. Any other questions, Veroni? No worries at all. That's cool. All right, guys. Last follow-up question. Um, Sa, Sam, good info. Thank you very much, my man, woman, girl, guy, lad, lassie, if you're from Scotland. Thank you very much. I'm really glad that you're enjoying the content on YouTube, which is great. Subscribe because we're fighting for subscribers, and that will be actually one thing. We're kind of getting to the end of this thing, but I would have a huge ask, guys, and we're really fighting for subscribers on YouTube. And if you could be a legend and kind of subscribe to the channel, we're posting all of that stuff, kind of all of the tools, etc., weekly because we've got a session on Monday and a session on Thursday, and all of that kind of ends up on YouTube as well. So I'm gonna kind of paste the link into our chat, which we're really fighting hard to get. We're at 110 subscribers now, which is awesome, you know, which is absolutely awesome. We had, you know, 11 a month ago. So the growth is there, so it's awesome. And I'm just gonna, to everyone, there you go. So this is the only thing I ask, kind of if you just click the link and subscribe to the channel. We're kind of okay on Facebook, we're kind of okay on LinkedIn, we're kind of okay on Instagram. But what we're really struggling with is YouTube. So if you can subscribe, that'll be an absolute legendary thank you to us, and that'll be really cool. Any last questions? Anup, you've switched on your camera. So I'm expecting a question. Salvatore? All right. All right. Well, guys, if there are no questions, thank you very much again for being here. We're doing these every Thursday at 8 p.m. CET. So if you will be sending out the invites on LinkedIn, Facebook as well. If you want to sign up to 99grid.com, definitely do so. So you'll have access to all the mailing lists, and we're not spamming the inbox too much. We're like sending 2 emails a week about these. So definitely, you know, if you'd be willing, we're more than welcome to meet us there. And yeah, take care, guys. It was a legendary experience to meet you. Thanks very much, Anup, for being here again. Thanks very much, Salvatore. Thanks, Bartosz. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Agnieszka. Thanks, Tiana. Thanks, Adriano. Veroni, Aspire. Thanks, Natalia, Carol, and Evelina. Thanks very much for being here with me. Take care. Have a great, well, night when you're in this part of the world, evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are. So, 99 Grid, signing off, guys. Take care. See ya. Okay, and last but not least, we are still live on YouTube, aren't we? Let me just find our little Ecom Live. Guys, I wanted to thank you very much for being here with us. It really means a lot to us, you know, doing these, to me specifically, doing these live sessions, you know, that you kind of contribute and you're out there and commenting and liking, etc. And it really matters to me. So I'm really glad, and I really wanted to thank you, you know, and I kind of appreciate it. So thanks very much for being here, and it really brings, you know, warm feelings to my heart whenever I see a packed audience of people wanting to kind of find out more about, you know, remote sessions, etc. And if you can let me know about what kind of topics you would like me to cover, you know, in the future, design thinking wise, user experience wise, does the time frame suit you, you know, or would you prefer this to be in the morning, in the evening, whatever? Let us know, because we don't read minds, you know, we don't read minds yet, anyway. So it'd be really cool to kind of hear more about your needs, you know, and problems or struggles you might be having about, you know, when it comes to experience design, design thinking, service design, UI, UX, and I'm sure that we'd be able to kind of help out in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah, thank you very much for being here with me, and it just really, you know, it really matters. So take care, guys. Stay safe, and I will see you on the Monday or on the Thursday or on any vlog that we're doing, and, you know, just be with us. And yeah, struggle on, stay safe. Take care, guys.